Hi, I'm VanderMark, and I'm here at the Barn Theater. You are in the audience, and I'm on the stage. And I want to tell you a little bit about my experience. In fact, the Barn Theater was my first taste of Montcalm Community College, and it was before I even moved to this area. Our family had a cottage on Dickerson Lake, and in the summertime, we would come up to the cottage and look for things to do in the area. And this was about the mid-70s, and at that time there was a group here called the Montcalm County Players, which was even earlier than the Flat River Players, and they put on summer shows here. So my first introduction to the Barn Theater was to come to a play called Harvey, you know, the one with the big rabbit. And they were putting on the play Harvey, and I was sitting about where you're sitting right now. And they had both doors open because at that point the air conditioning hadn't been installed. There was no air conditioning or heating in the barn. And as the play was going, a little black and white skunk came in from one side, walked across in front of the stage, and went out the other door. And you can imagine the audience reaction to that. We had gasps and scary things. And the people on the stage, I'm not sure they even noticed it. They just kept right on going. The play continued, and it was a fabulous play. So that was my first introduction to the Barn Theater. My second introduction to the Barn Theater was to be invited to be a teacher at the Fine Arts Day Camp. And that was in the mid-70s, maybe into the late 70s and into the early 80s. So I did that for years and years and years, and every summer we had a week of wonderful fun with great campers, and they did all kinds of arts. They did theater, but they also did visual art, they did music, they did, later on they did filming. So they did a lot of work in the summer to develop their artistic skills. And that went on until just a couple of years ago when that stopped being offered. Let's see, what else? We have had, obviously, plays in the barn. The biggest part of the barn was when we had a drama class here taught by Carolyn Johnson for several years, and many, many years. And we had MCC students who came in and took drama classes, and in the fall, they produced a play that would be shown to middle school and high school kids. And in the spring, they would produce a play that would be shown to elementary kids. And we had thousands and thousands of kids who came to MCC to watch our plays. And I think many were introduced to the idea that they might be able to go to college here. And many did come back and go to college here. So that was a wonderful program that went on for many years. In fact, in 2004, I remember we had a traveling Smithsonian Institute exhibition here called Barn Again. And it was mainly in the farmhouse, but it was also in the barn. And the drama class that spring, it was the spring of 2004, put on the play Charlotte's Web. And again, we had thousands of kids, especially a large number of kids come for that because they also got a chance to go to the traveling exhibit then. And that was a wonderful part of the theater. There have just been millions and millions, well, not millions and millions, but many, many, many things that have gone on here in the barn that we've done. We had Oscar nights for a while where we came in and gave awards, and we predicted the Oscars, who was going to win the Oscars. We did all kinds of things in the barn. It's just suited for so many things, and it's such a special, charming place. I was asked to talk about my favorite books, and that's a hard question to answer because my favorite book tends to be the one that I just read. But upon thinking about this, I think the book that has shaped me the most was a book I read when I was probably 11 or 12, and that was Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. And this summer, I am reading an annotated version of Little Women. I love books that teach me things. And so I'm going through now and I'm reading about the history behind Little Women and where Alcott got her philosophies from her father and the transcendentalists of the time, and the literary references that she uses in the book. And I'm learning so much about what did shape me as a child. So that's probably my favorite book. More recently, I think one of the books that I really loved was The Language of Flowers by Vanessa Diffenbach, because again, it's a great story. It's kind of a tragic story, but it's a wonderful story, and it teaches me something. I love gardening, so it teaches me something about flowers, and that was very interesting to me. And then my most recent, and I read this quite a while ago, but I've gone back to this book because of our uncertainty in our lives right now, is a book called The Path by Michael Hewitt, I believe it is, who was an instructor at Harvard. And he talked about Chinese philosophy and how we can shape our lives a little differently than we're used to shaping our lives. And that's been very helpful for me to kind of rethink, now that we have time to think about ourselves and where we're going and what's happening in our lives. That's a great book to go back and revisit.